What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a Blu-ray review of a movie that was donated to me by Plemke through Amazon. And that movie is As the Gods Will by Takashi Miike. Let's get into it. So Plemke has been following me on the Twitch streams and then eventually into the movies, the horror movies and podcast and YouTube and everything like that. And every now and then he'll donate a movie to me through the Amazon, our wish list that we have. Just as a notice, you don't have to do this, but if there is something that you would like me to review that's in that wish list or is not, let me know. I'll put it in the wish list. And if you want to buy it from me, I will absolutely 100% do a review for you on the YouTube or on the podcast. So that way you can get a shout out and all that other stuff, which I greatly appreciate because some of these movies are just great and it's great to talk about them. But moving forward, As the Gods Will, which Plemke did give to me, thank you, by the way, is a movie that is a Takashi Miike film, which if you are unfamiliar with Takashi Miike, a lot of people in the earlier days used to call him the Quentin Tarantino of Japan. He's done many movies that are some of my favorite movies out of Japan, like Gozu or Ichi the Killer. He's done so many different types of movies. I could go on and on and on. This is an adaptation of a manga series by the same name, and he brought it to life on the screen. This isn't his first rendezvous with anime or manga and making them live action. He loves this stuff. In fact, he's done stuff like Blade of the Immortal, Terraformers, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Crows, and many more. Now, I love these kind of weird movies because I'm just into seeing stuff that I would never see on the screen normally. And Takashi Miike isn't always a home run for every movie that he's done, but you can guarantee that there's going to be his own sort of thing in there. And he does some pretty weird things in his movies that just kind of blow your mind sometimes. Sometimes gross, sometimes gory, sometimes just really great stories that are kind of heartfelt. It's really weird. It's a mixed bag of things that you'll get from him. You just never know what you're going to get. And I didn't mean to quote Forrest Gump, by the way. Anyway, so what is As the Gods Will, and why is this so weird, and why am I telling you about this movie? Well, it is about a bunch of kids in a high school who are suddenly put in a game of death, and they don't know why, or how to play it, or how they're going to get out of it, and who will survive. Which, if that doesn't get you curious at all, let me tell you the beginning of the movie that's just in the trailer. There is a round Daruma doll, which is a doll in real life that people actually give to one another. It's actually like a hollow, round, red toy with like a face on it that is depicted and or modeled after Bodhim Harma, which he was the founder of the Zen tradition of Buddhism. When people give these as gifts, they're kind of considered toys, but they are a symbol of perseverance, good luck, and making them a pretty popular gift to give to people when they're going through some sort of issue. So imagine, if you will, you're in class and your teacher's head pops and that doll's head is in place of it, hopping on the table, playing a game of red light, green light, where you turn your back and if whoever's moving behind you, well, they get their head popped into a bunch of splattery red balls that go everywhere until whoever survives. Interested? Well, that's just one of the many things that these kids go through in sort of this chamber of battle royale puzzles that they have no idea why it's happening to them, nor does the world. So this gets pretty big, from one crazy thing to the next, and each of these are sort of a test to see who's the best of the best. And a lot of people die because of it. Now, if you can see on the back here, you can kind of see there's some pretty crazy iconography there. Somebody wearing a mouse here, a mouse outfit. You got the classroom with the Daruma doll. You have this fella here, which is one of those cats, the good luck cats. And some of the little Russian dolls that you see. But there's a bunch of stuff in this movie that is just wild and crazy. And some of the stuff that they go through is actually pretty fun because it's kind of like they're tricks and these kids got to figure out how they beat each of these things without getting completely slaughtered by whatever is on the screen. Now, I don't want to ruin it for you all. And I actually did kind of peruse some of the manga online because they had a site that you could read through it. And it actually follows the manga pretty straightforward. There are a lot more steps of things that these kids need to pass, different weird situations that they get themselves into that are in the manga versus the movie, but of course they had to trim it down because it is a movie. Now, I will admit, I do like this movie because of its weirdness, but it does kind of start to lower its fucking interest as the movie goes on, and you start to figure out what's going on. That can be kind of considered a boring flaw to some people, or maybe unraveling some sort of mystery that might be interesting to them. It does dip down, especially from the start of the film, which is just a bunch of fucking heads popping like crazy, which should interest just about anybody. The acting in this is actually pretty good. There is some funny moments, there is some silly moments, there is some crazy people in mixed with like good people, and they have to make some pretty harrowing decisions between them in order to survive, stuff that they don't want to do, and sort of plays with each other. Now, this is, of course, like I said, based off the manga, and it was actually a screenplay. They wrote out a screenplay based on the manga. Hiroyuki Yatsu did the screenplay for this based on Muneyuki Kaneshiro and Akeji Fujimura manga story. So it is condensed down, but it has enough in it. Now, typically when people see mangas and anime live action adaptations, they're pretty critical on it because the source material is such a, it's something that everybody just really loves if you've read it, and seeing it come to the screen can either make some people upset or some people extremely happy. So it's always a mixed bag, but I'm always been a fan of live action anime and mangas, and if they're weird and bloody like this one, I'm usually into it. This isn't as bloody as you would think, but it also is kind of. It's almost like they use these balls to pop people in certain spots, but there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of CGI, but it doesn't matter because it all kind of works together in this like really dark, fucked up sort of battle royale. And by the end, you may be a little miffed as to what's happening next because, well, the story is cut short from the manga. The manga continues on. The story on this one doesn't, so maybe they were hoping to make a sequel? I don't know. Now, as a whole, this movie I would probably give a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect, but if you like to have some weird, fun stuff that you will never see on the screen, this is not a bad choice. The Blu-rays are, I think, $27.99 on Amazon, and that's where Plemke picked this up for me, so thanks again, buddy. The Blu-ray also comes with the DVD, which I accidentally popped in the DVD, and because my player upscales it a little bit, I didn't really notice it at first, but then I popped in the other one and it looks beautiful. So there is a difference. It is from Funimation. There is not a lot of extras on this one either. It just has like the trailers for other movies that you might be interested in within the same realm, like Tokyo Ghoul and a few others. But this isn't my favorite Takashi Miike film, but it is one I think that you might want to check out in his more later work that will kind of catch you off guard and make you interested in watching it. And it's funny because on Netflix, we actually have a new show that is an original that is 9 episodes, an hour each, called Squid Game, which literally almost starts off exactly like this movie, or they have a scene in which there's this thing in it. Only in that show, it deals with like debt. So people who are in debt and can't pay their bills, they get thrown in this arena. So you might want to check that out as well. But if you are interested in buying a copy of this, I will include a link down below. Anybody that buys a copy of this movie, it goes to help us out a few pennies to buy something else for the podcast in the future. So we get a little bit of kickback for the money that you spend there. So if you do, consider clicking that link. But yeah, that's it. That's everything. As the God's Will is a wild movie that does have some flaws, and it does get a little bit slowed down by the end of the movie, but the characters are interesting enough that it's still worth a watch and obviously worth an own. So the picture quality is great. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Plemke, for buying it for me. Have you guys seen this movie? Are you a fan of Takashi Miike? What films do you like of his that you might like to see us do in the future? We've done a few in the past, like Gozu and something else on the podcast, by the way. But other than that, thanks for stopping by, and as always, long live the void.